would help if I push the record button when I actually record. This is Trap Red with a marijuana discussion, and Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have been Twitter-pated. They're tweeting their asses off now. We're witnessing a phenomenon of social media being used in an information war for your brain cells in a dumbed-down America where the average college student doesn't even know that 1776 was the date of the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution, and or that George Washington was the first president of the United States, and that the first act of Congress was to adopt the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution. They don't know any of that stuff. They don't know anything about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, or who we even fought against in the American Revolution to free ourselves from the colonial dictatorship of the king, which never really happened. But they sold that bill of goods to the American public in the form of all these lies, which they're still perpetrating, by the way. The transparency of Bernie Sanders' push for the legalization of marijuana at this late date, and never was brought up prior to the Democratic National Convention, is quite obvious that he's being used as a puppet for Hillary Clinton's sick administration that's already in place, by the way, and he's assured a place in it for doing this. Probably the next drug czar, who knows. But in any event, for the last 50 years, it's been such that the University of Mississippi is the only one that's been legalized by the federal government to conduct any kind of experiments, research, and medical or otherwise on marijuana. And they're the only ones that have a farm. And so this whole thing's been contained for the last 50 years, 50, 60 years, since 1937. when they made marijuana illegal, and the prohibition against marijuana went into full force, with the FBI actually arresting and incarcerating and imprisoning people for growing pot. Prior to that, it wasn't illegal, but they had to have something to replace the alcohol prohibition. So they legalized alcohol and tobacco against the reformers' cries of further prohibition and abstinence, and then legalized those two deadly substances and made an economy out of that. And then they made a further economy by prohibiting marijuana, which was kept at that point in time pretty much to the ranks of musicians and minorities and sharecroppers. And just because they made it prohibited, it drew so much attention to it that it gained a whole new audience, and now it's global, worldwide. And probably I don't know what the global figures are. I know in America over 111 million plus people smoke marijuana, because 111 million are unemployed. And why are they unemployed? Marijuana laws, of course. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, if you got drug testing for marijuana and you can't get a job if you test positive, that 111 million have tested positive for pot. That's why they're out of work. So you got a war against drugs, which is a war against thugs, which is a war against the people in your government, like Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And unfortunately, Donald Trump, the real estate mogul, where was he on 9/11? That's something you need to ask yourself. He's coming at you like he's an outsider. I don't believe that's true. I believe he's raspberry sauce on a bowl of ice cream sundae with a cherry on top. That's what I believe. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see Donald Trump as a viable candidate for president of the United States, nor do I see Hillary Clinton as a viable candidate for the president of the United States. I see them both as puppets for a police state that's being rolled out on the American public in full force, and will take effect before the election, I'm sure, because they've started World War III in the Middle East. So be that what it may, you vote for raspberries or blueberries. I'll stick with Jesus. Trap Red.